Welcome to another edition of Totally Awesome Fishing, and this time we're over in Surrey. We're at Old Berry Hill Lake Fisheries. It's about a 200-year-old lake, and there's other lakes around here as well, but we're going to be talking to Russ Evans in the tackle shop here, who's an expert on float fishing for bream, and he's going to tell us about fishing the waggler, which I've not done a lot of, but he's the expert. He's got the latest techniques, and they tell us, do you know what, it's almost guaranteed fishing. Let's get and check out what Russ has to say. Hi, Russ. Good morning.
Hello, Graeme. How you doing? All right?
And you're going to show us this this waggler business now, anyway, with a bit of luck, and all the options that are available to us here.
Yep, sure.
So, starting on the floats, let's run through a few of the floats you've got.
Okay.
Okay, now, these are a couple of the floats that I see you showing us. Now, years ago, I used to have a bodied one with a big body on it as well.
Yep.
So, what are these, and what situations do you use them at? Tell me something about
Well,
those.
the reason why I sort of selected these with the bodies ones, as you were saying, Graeme, is that on the old lake you can get quite a bit of tow.
Sure. That's like a drift or a drag.
That's right. Yeah. It sort of drags quite a bit, and not always, but sometimes it will all of a sudden halfway through a session it will start to move around, and with a bodied, it will tend to sort of drag it through the water a bit more. And we normally find the bream here at Berry like the bait sort of pin right down.
Sure.
So by using these sort of straight wagglers, which is sort of cut through the toe a little bit, and you can sort of obviously dot it right down. These are quite large ones because you want to be fishing at least sort of maybe anything from 2 to 4 or 5 rod lengths out.
Sure.
So you're going to need a little bit of bulk to get the float out, get the line sunk underneath, and then sort of get the float dotted right down.
Now, what sort of weight would you be? What shotting would you put on this? When you say, I always say carry a bit of weight. What sort of shot would people
these are
use?
2.5 swans. I mean, because some days you're going to get quite windy, so you're going to need obviously to punch it out, especially if the wind is blowing into your face as well. And we're using 2.5 and had most of it sort of bulked.
Yes.
Bulked around the float. And then obviously you'll have a few shots bulk further down, just above your hook, hooked to nylon. And then you can sort of, I normally, it's always best to fish at least sort of 6 to a foot over depth.
Sure, and you have a look at it. Do you have some sort of shot, say that sort of distance, 6 inches?
Yeah.
It's on the bottom to,
you can,
to keep it nailed down.
Yeah, almost like a telltale type shot.
Sure.
As well. So and obviously when the fish picks up the bait, you'll get an indication almost straight away on that.
What sort of distance for youngsters want to try this waggler fishing? You say 2, 3, 4 lengths out. You can go further, but for that you need what? This sort of is a pretty lumpy float. Yeah. This one, what's that? I've never seen one of those before.
Yeah, these are the big old sort of loaded sort of waggler as such. You've got all different types of weight, so you can adjust it accordingly.
Can you put extra weights on there at all? You alter the weight, or is it a fixed weight?
That's about what this one's. Just having a look at it there. This is 8 grams. They go up to 10 and 12 grams. And I use like a similar version of these, the Hungarian type floats, which are really nice to use. And with the weights, you can take and say there's what we were saying about drift and flow. If you take one of these shots off, because they're all like little slivers, little segments, you can then take 1 or 2 of them off, and then put a lot more shots down the line to counteract the actual flow and the drift.
To allow for that drag,
Yeah, so because you want that bait to keep still.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you have it really picked down here, say, and then you get a bit of drag, you're going to get like the force bite is going to disappear almost. So if you take a bit of weight off the bottom, it eases the float up a bit.
It does, yeah. And with this method, because you've got, sometimes I'll have say like 2 number 4s drop pin right down, lay a foot over depth, and you get the most fantastic bites. You're almost like Excalibur coming out of the stone. The float will come straight up like that. It'll turn and then it'll slide away. You can either hit it on the lift bite, or you just get them ones that just sail away, but you get some fantastic sort of bites by using this sort of method.
Now that's almost like the lift method we used to use for tench 40 odd years ago, which was you struck when the float came up and went flat, they got it. So it's very similar. We've gone sort of full circle.
It's still a great way of fishing, and it's a shame because a lot of people don't sort of get into, forget about using these sort of type of flows, and the old ways are still good.
They still work, don't they? They still work.
They do, yeah.
Now, were you telling me previously about when I phoned up, it was about feeder fishing. You said these can almost cast as far as a small feeder.
Yeah, the 12 grammers, they go out like rockets. I mean, you need sort of up your main line, sort of £6 minimum, you know, good strong line, and a fairly sort of decent rod,
Sure.
medium sort of to light, to punch them out, because you can cast, well, you can outcast a feeder with them as well.
Is that right?
Really,
Yeah.
They do charge out.
If you're using, say, 4, 5, £6 mainline, what would you drop to on your hook link, and how long would you have it at the
I
bottom?
mean, the Bream here are not hook line shy. They're more, they can be bait shy. If you put too much bait on, they'll just back away. You know, like the old days where you know, sort of catapult out a few balls of ground bait.
That's me, yeah. I don't need that then.
With a Bream, they've seen it all before, and they'll just
Melt away.
yeah, go away. And then when you go home, they'll come back at night, and thank you very much, they'll mop it all up. So it's
Now, as for fixing, this is what we call, you know, normally you'd have if I'm on a river, I've got a rubber at the top, rubber at the bottom. It's bottom end only.
Yep.
Would you put shot either side of that, or are there other ways to pinch it either side?
Well, if I'm going for distance, then I would tend to bulk it with, you know, sort of just your normal sort of lead, you know, your lead-free shot sort of thing, the
Yeah.
anchor stuff, and then bulk it up accordingly, and then have some droppers further down, some number 8s, make it up with that to sort of get it sort of down to a reasonable sort of set in the water. But I know a lot of people like to, if they're using lighter sort of wagglers and close in, then just normal float stops like these will do the job, and then that will just sort of set the float on the line either side.
Are these are okay for distance casting as well, or would you prefer the shot?
Shot every time if I'm going to go for distance, without a doubt.
Now, when I've gone bream fishing, invariably it's been in Ireland. It's been brandlings, feeder, out you go. But now you're telling me, what, different baits, no maggots, I don't need those? What are we going to use?
I mean, maggots in the winter time, when the temperatures drop down a bit, especially on the old lake, but the bream in here, I don't know, they're a little bit different to when I sort of go to other places. There's chop worm, casters, using pieces of worm on the hook, as you know, nearly everywhere I go. But the bream here seem to, because of there's a lot of calf hangers about, there's a lot of sort of pellet goes into the water.
So they feed on that.
They get onto it. So you need to fish sort of pellets, and sweet corn as well is another good bait as well.
So for this afternoon, we're going to give it a go to see if we can catch some bream for the camera.
Yep.
There's 2 types of pellet, as I understand it. Now these ones feel a bit sort of squishy. What's this? And they're obviously in a hermetically sealed pack. What's the difference between the 2 packets? Just explain it for the people.
You've got, I mean, they're basically almost the same. You've got the sort of the ringers expand the pellets there, 6 and 8s, and then you've got the jelly pellets from Baytech. They go straight on the hook, as long as you've got the point showing through, so you get a decent hook hold. And a great way fish can, you know, being soft, can slurp them up all day long. And especially if you're feeding sort of micro pellet and then fishing these over the hook. And then the other sort of different variety is if you want to sort of hair rig or lasso them on. The bream do like these 8mm halibut pellets. They do like the crunch on them sometimes.
Are these all hard, yeah?
They're all hard pellet, rock hard, and these are ideal for pinging out 1s and 2s, as I was saying earlier, because they're quite heavy, quite a dense pellet. You'll be able to ping them out quite a long way.
Okay. Right, anyway. So, being as these are hard, Russ, how are we going to fish these? How are we going to fish those on the hook? Show us the method.
Well, one of the great ways is the midi lasso, which is there's the packet. You get 6 in a packet, 3 on the large loop, 3 on the smaller loop. So you can use on the smaller loop sort of 6mm pellets, and on the larger loop you'll get an 8, possibly even a 10mm pellet on there as well. And out of the packet, that's exactly how they look. You've got the hook, and it's almost like fishing it a hair rig style, and you can see there's almost like a float stop type of sort of gadget on there that will then slide down into the loop and trap, basically, or lasso the pellet onto the loop.
So it's almost like you say, like hair rigging.
Yeah,
in a way with that loop.
Yeah, it's another version of. I'll show you best way to do it. There's the loop there. So you basically just push the pellet on, keeping the line sort of tight, and then between your thumb and next finger, just push down on the float stop or rubber grommet as such, and then away you go. And you can even catch, you know, it takes a bit of a job to get that pellet off. You can catch, I've had sometimes 10 10 Bream
Oh really?
on that setup without even needing to change the pellet.
So the pellet's not going to dissolve quickly in the water then?
No, it will sit there, you know, sit there for quite some time.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh good, well we'll give that a go.
It's a fantastic way of catching.
Okay. Right, so let's give us a good insight into the tackle to use.
Yep.
I've been here for about 40 years and obviously it's pretty well maintained now because you've got a lot of stages there. Where should we go? What sort of depths? What sort of distance? Give us the tips.
Right, okay, well at the moment the bream are really feeding well. They're really on the munch, so to speak. The spawning process is out of the way and now they want to put the weight back on. So you know, what I say to people, there's so many bream in here, if you fell in, you'd come out to be one in your pocket.
I hope.
But round the boathouse is the deepest part of the lake. You've got sort of depths up to about sort of 8 foot, 7 or 8 foot, 9 foot in places. And then as you go further up the front bank, further down the long bank, you've got sort of roughly depths of 4 to 5 foot at sort of, you know, 20, 30 foot out. So
yeah, and that's being such an old lake, a fairly silty bottom, I imagine, is it?
All silty. There's the odd gravel, bit of gravel, but it's mainly silty in the main.
Pretty clear, not snags for losing fish. There's nowhere to beware of or anything.
No, there's no weed at all.
So plumb the depth, we'll be looking at 5 feet average where we're fishing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, nice, comfortable depth.
Okay. Well, we'll give it a shot. Get set up with some of these pellets and see if we can show them how this method works, and more important, are we going to catch on that float, guys?
I'm sure you will.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, we've been here about half an hour now. Shoveled the sandwiches down my mouth because I was starving, and the float went under just a lift bite, and I've got probably, I'd say, my first bream actually. I may have caught one when I was younger with my dad, but this is the first one I can remember anyway.
Well, we had something island. It's only a small one.
Yeah.
Not a biggie. There's the float
on the waggler.
There is the waggler. So that works. Not a big one, but it's a sign. And the fish is...
He's just coming up, hold on. There he comes. There he is. Yeah. That's alright.
That's it, you play lay your rod right, side strain. Just lightly, so watch your tip so you don't pull too hard.
Totally awesome. First bream for our first bream episode. Classic lift bite. Float went down, popped back up again.
Let's
get the slime off him.
I don't think you'll ever get a slime off a bream. Hold him up
go.
nice. That's it, just there. Yeah, that's
Totally
okay.
awesome, guys.
Shows you it does work, and Russ's method works, which is more important. Well, I don't know what it is. 3.5 pounds.
Well, we've got the waste thing.
No, it's about 3.5 pounds. Let's see if we can get one of those bigger ones. Get the kitty back.
Yep. Right, here we go.
There we go.
Let's get some more.
A nice big old slab. Let's see if there's any more out there.
Oh, he goes. Okay, one thing about bream that everyone knows about is the slime. You're never going to catch one without slime in it. Look at that. Lovely. It's all over the net as well, but here at Totally Awesome we don't complain.
I just bumped one fish off. Really tricky bites. This almost looked like a tensious one. This was another bite, and let's hope it doesn't come off, but it just goes to show that you don't have to go ledgering all the time on the bottom. You can have a bit of fun with a waggler. I'm only going to have a bit of fun if I net it, obviously, and it is indeed a bream. It's gone very quiet. They stopped bubbling. Let's have a look. Get him over there. It's got a bit of mark on his side. Well, that's really good for float fishing. The wind's eased off, but do you know what? They're not easy. And just look at the amount of slime that's on my lovely net. That is the downside of fishing for bream. Let's get them up, have a quick look at it. Okay, one of the problems I've got, I'll show you in a second before we cast out again, is the line's floating. Now I cleaned all this line and smoothed it all out, especially for waggler fishing. But really I could do with putting some washing up liquid or something on it just to get it sinking, because when there's a ripple on you can sink the line. That's important with waggler fishing. But when it goes glassy calm it can be a real pain tightening up to the float. So let's just get this chappy back. There he goes. Uno Brimo, caught a la totally awesome waggler fishing. Get it back and I'll give you a couple of tips about waggler casting and sinking, not the fish. Good job we got the mat there. Sinking the line as well, because they're two most important points. But there's a fish. I'll put him in the net, we'll get it back. There we go. There we go. Thankfully it won't splash all over the place. And hopefully a big pike doesn't come and grab it, because there are big pike in here in Old Berry Hill. So I think I'll let him go now. He's gone. Yeah, kid. Okay, this float has got a locking shot either side of it, which means all the weight is up the, well, under the base of the float. So it's a big 5 or 6 foot drop. Now when you're casting, what I find, and if you're a youngster as well, you've got to be aware of this, you've got a long drop from the float here to the bait, and you've got to watch out for trees over the top of you. So make sure when you go back for the cast, there's a gap to cast out, otherwise you'll do all your tackling up and send the first cast straight up in the trees, and it's pretty infuriating. Now the other tip when you're waggler fishing is overcast your swim for 2 reasons. You can stop the cast of the float and make the float stop first, and it sends this bait flying past the float so it doesn't tangle, and you get 2 blips. You get 2 blips on the surface. And the other thing is it gives you time to sink the rod top and wind the float back into your swim. Otherwise you're going to, if you cast into the swim and then go and sink the line, you're pulling your float and your bait away from the swim. So overcast it, sink the line, bring it back into the swim. I'll show you roughly how it works. Now it's all very well winding fast to sink the line. When it's ripply, has a wind on, brilliant, it goes straight down. That surface tension on the line is broken by the little waves on there, but when it's flat calm it's not so easy. So what I do, I get a little canister like this with washing up liquid in it, just a little bit of diluted washing up liquid, and I put it over the spool, just like that, just a dab like that, every half dozen casts. Then when you do cast, as soon as that line hits the surface tension is broken by the washing up liquid, it'll sink quicker, you don't get the line dragging. One of the problems you can also have, especially with youngsters, they tend to strike vertically straight up in the air. It's sort of automatic really, everybody would do it when they're younger. Try and, if you have to strike hard, go through the gap that you made the cast through, that way you won't send the tackle and float up in the trees, and you won't get tangled and have to snap off and start tackling up again. I find it better, just hold the float and then just try and strike slightly to the right using the rod low, sticking the line to the water surface, and just almost a pull like that. It just takes a flick of the wrist just to set that hook. Then you can bring the rod right up high, but the same thing when you get near the net, don't forget there could be overhanging trees. With a 13-foot match rod and you're standing up, you're probably 18 feet.
Right guys, we had our 2 bream, Dad just got one, and we had a real dry spell of nothing with a few bites. Dad had a great run on a bream that just flew across the water, and we've given it the traditional, totally awesome 5-minute warning. And what happens? Just as we're chatting away, float goes under, typical bite, and we're hooked into a bream here. Probably last bream of the day, but we may give it another 5-minute warning, who knows. Either way, bream 3, and we didn't start fishing till about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
So
get him in a net. You can see that little halibut pellet just on the edge with that rig.
Yeah, on the Waggler. Right guys, here we go. Let's get it on the mat. As he told us in the tackle shop, he gave us all the tips, all the hints. We paid attention to them and it's paid off. My second bream, our third bream of the day. Well, we can't really exactly call it a day, more of a half day. But nevertheless, a bream. And now I'm just going to go and release it. Spin this round. There we go. Lovely.
Good job we stayed for the last 5-minute warning.
Yep.
Right guys, we just walked down to pack up our gear and I just looked up, I thought, where's the float gone? Is my float missing or am I seeing things? No, they're on the bite and it looks like another bream's coming in.
And we can tell that I just had my fish as my hands are still slimy.
Hadn't even wiped his hands off yet. It's disgusting. He's not making my sandwiches tomorrow. And I'll tell you what, the match rod, they do get, I mean, they're not the world's greatest fighters, let's face it, Bream, but on a match rod, they're pretty good. They're not bad at all. Come on, don't fall off. That's him. There we go. Not big, but a bit of sport. Come on, out you go, buddy. Unfortunately for me, it's not as big as Mike's, but talk about the 5-minute warning to beat all 5-minute warnings. And you know our saying, I'll be packing up now. The fishes, but we're not.